The world knows him simply as Merv, but we always knew him as Uncle Buddy. For more than 2 decades, he sat at the center of Hollywood's bright lights and back rooms, hosting stars on stage while watching them off it. Merv Griffin wasn't just a talk show host. He was a producer, a deal maker, and the man behind Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. But behind the scenes, he saw things no one else did. The fake charm, the quiet exclusion, the ugly truth nobody wanted to say out loud. And these are some of the worst racist guests Mr. Merv Griffin ever faced. Number 7. John Wayne Merv was popular for creating internationally reputed game shows like the Wheel of Fortune, and without any doubt. But as they say, when you stand close enough to the spotlight, you also see the shadows. And when it came to John Wayne, Merv saw plenty. Wayne walked onto the set as it belonged to him, like he owned the place. That slow swagger, that narrowed stare. He didn't just play the cowboy, he believed in the myth. People working behind the scenes said it wasn't an act. Wayne wasn't quiet about where he stood. After his 1971 Playboy interview dropped, the words weren't taken out of context. He said exactly what he actually meant. He said that white people were superior, that Native Americans deserved what they got, that black folks weren't ready for responsibility. It wasn't buried in vague language. He said it straight. And when the backlash came, he didn't blink. He doubled down, on air and off. Merv's crew remembered how Wayne carried himself after the interview. He still requested white crews. And he still had a problem if the person holding the mic or brushing his powder didn't look like him. He treated white supremacy like it was some flavor of American pride. The most disturbing part was that Hollywood barely cared. He kept making movies, kept doing interviews, kept getting honored. For millions, Wayne was the image of American masculinity, untouched by the storm around him. When he died in 1979, most headlines remembered the icon, not the ideology. That Playboy interview? A footnote. But Merv never forgot. He'd watched Wayne joke backstage while crew members shifted uncomfortably nearby. He heard him defend his views without hesitation, and he noticed how many people in the room nodded along, quietly agreeing, or at least not pushing back. Wayne wasn't just a product of his time, he shaped it. And he gave cover to a version of patriotism that saw equality as a threat, and the town let him. Merv understood what that meant. That being a star let you carry poison in your pocket, as long as the camera loved your face. Wayne kept the cowboy hat, kept the spotlight, but not for long. Number 6, Bette Davis. In the days since he died, we've been watching his shows on TV. It's strangely comforting to watch Uncle Buddy alive as ever, even though he's moved into the big home in the sky. But when we're talking about the woman he always called a walking flame, it's hard not to feel a little conflicted. Bette wasn't just a star. She was a force. Fierce eyes, clipped delivery, and total control of a room. She didn't enter scenes. She overtook them. Merv admired her talent, no question, but he also noticed what others didn't, or didn't want to. And the way she acted toward black crew members was never explosive, never loud, just cold. She'd ask for different assistants after seeing the ones assigned. Said she needed people with the right experience. It sounded harmless until you noticed who kept getting removed. It wasn't about ability. Some of those assistants had more time in the industry than their white counterparts. Still, she'd have them replaced, always with someone white. Hairstylists, makeup artists, cameramen. If you were black and nearby, chances were you wouldn't be for long. She never used slurs, never raised her voice, but she didn't have to. Her preferences were understood, and they were met. Behind closed doors, she'd mention how Hollywood was slipping. Standards aren't what they used to be, she'd say. Crews are too fast. Act too loose. But the people listening understood what she really meant. The industry wasn't becoming sloppy, it was becoming integrated. Even when it became clear, through notes, adjustments, reassignments, that she was quietly keeping black professionals at a distance, no one pushed back. Why would they? She was Bette Davis. The studios needed her, and her difficult reputation worked like armor. If someone complained, they'd be told she's tough on everyone. But she wasn't. White staff got short-tempered with Bette. Black staff got something colder, more distant, sometimes invisible. Uncle Buddy saw the pattern, so did others. But it stayed quiet, because legends protect themselves, and because no one wanted to be the person who said something ugly about a woman whose face was still on the poster out front. Even now, the legend stands. But the truth never stopped breathing. Number 5. Joan Crawford. If John Wayne was loud about where he stood, Joan Crawford showed how silence could be just as telling. She didn't walk onto a set. She floated in, shoulders back, chin high, eyes that told you she knew she was the reason the lights were on. To the audience, she was still that diamond-polished queen of the silver screen. But backstage, Merv's crew saw a different version, one shaped by age, ego, and a quiet bitterness that grew sharper with each passing year. She had a way of dressing her preferences in polite words. She didn't refuse to work with younger black staff. She just wanted the familiar faces, the trusted ones. Production teams knew what that meant. When those requests weren't granted, the temperature shifted. Cold stares, short instructions, dismissive gestures. And more than once, she asked for separate green rooms, different bathrooms, a second makeup mirror for privacy. She'd done it for so long that no one even blinked. People whispered, "Sure," but they didn't push back. She missed the old Hollywood, and she didn't hide it. People used to take pride in how they looked, she'd mutter, staring at a young black makeup artist packing up her kit. She called modern crews too casual, too noisy. But what she meant was clear, too different. The deeper she sank into the late 60s and early 70s, the less she cared about hiding it. The younger the crew, the more it set her off, especially if they weren't white. She didn't yell, she didn't argue, she questioned. Is she trained? How long has he been doing this? Do they know how I work? Questions that weren't really questions. But she didn't lose jobs over it. In fact, the networks bent to her. Her name still pulled ratings. People tuned in for old Hollywood, the glam, the mystery. They didn't know, or didn't want to know, what it cost behind the scenes. Merv knew, his staff knew, and by the end, no one was really surprised. Joan Crawford hadn't just grown old. She'd hardened. The world had changed. She hadn't. And she made sure the people around her knew it. Number 4. Bing Crosby. Sometimes the ugliest things wear the softest voices. Bing was comfort in a suit, the kind of voice you'd hear in December and feel safe again. He sounded like holidays, fireplaces, and everything simple. But off stage, that warmth didn't go far. Behind the scenes, Bing was a man who liked things the way they used to be, and did everything he could to keep them that way. By the late 50s, reports were surfacing about Crosby's stance on housing. He didn't want integration in the neighborhoods where he held property. When asked to support fair housing legislation, he declined, said it would affect value. But everyone knew what he meant. He didn't scream about race. He used polite language, financial logic, and neighborhood codes. That kind of racism doesn't hit headlines. It hides in paperwork. Merv's crew remembered the way Crosby acted around them. When the production teams began to change, more young, more black, he stiffened. He didn't yell or throw tantrums. He just got colder. Comments slipped out about how TV isn't what it used to be, about how things move too fast now. None of it said outright, all of it clear. When asked about the new faces on set, he deflected and said they didn't get the tone, said he missed the old crew, and when his interviews wrapped, he barely made eye contact with half the room. Other stars from his era adapted. Some made the shift, spoke publicly, at least tried. But Crosby didn't budge. For him, social progress was in decline. Still, he kept working like a man. He still got a lot of applause. Because when a man sings White Christmas in that voice, nobody wants to hear what he thinks about integrated housing. He died in 1977. The headlines read like a hymn: pioneer, icon, legend, the man who gave America its holiday soundtrack. No one said much about the neighborhoods he worked to keep white, or the black professionals were pushed out of his circles, or the quiet resistance he carried with him to every show. Because sometimes, the gentlest voices are the ones that go unchallenged the longest. And Crosby knew that better than anyone. What do you think about him? Number 3, Lucille Ball. Lucille changed television forever. She didn't just act. She ran studios, signed checks, and built entire shows around her vision. She proved that women could lead in an industry built to ignore them. But along the way, something else happened. Something the public never really saw. Her power wasn't passive. She decided who got cast, who got hired, and what America saw every week. And what she wanted was broad appeal. That meant white casts, safe jokes, and no storylines that might make certain viewers uncomfortable. I Love Lucy was set in New York City, yet it barely showed anyone who wasn't white. Writers who pitched integrated stories said they were quietly dismissed, and not rejected outright, just cooled down with phrases like too specific or not quite right. And Ball's advice carried weight. Younger producers followed her lead, replicating the same choices across their own projects. She wasn't cruel, and she wasn't overt. But she taught exclusion through business logic, treating diversity as a gamble rather than a necessity. Daisy Lou's records show that behind the laughter was a company that stayed uniform, even as the country changed. When she died in 1989, tributes focused on her legacy, her innovation, her success. No one talked about the casting decisions that shaped how millions of Americans saw the world. Merv had watched her work up close. He admired her genius, but he also saw how often that genius was used to keep things exactly the way they'd always been: white. And number 2, Doris Day. It was not a crime. She simply smiled a lot. Always did. That picture-perfect smile, the one America trusted. But behind it was someone who understood exactly how much power she had, and she used every inch of it. Doris Day wasn't just the star of the Doris Day Show. She was the one calling the shots. The contracts had her name. The final say, hers. And while the world saw her as sweet, sunny, and safe, her decisions said something else entirely. Her show ran for 5 seasons. 5 years of stories set in San Francisco, one of the most diverse cities in the country, and the cast stayed overwhelmingly white. Not by accident. Doris had approval rights over casting, and she used them. Quietly. Consistently. People in the room remember how she phrased it. Let's keep it traditional. We want the wholesome look. Everyone knew what that meant. Black actors barely got through the first round. Behind the camera wasn't much better. Resumes went untouched. Calls unreturned. If you weren't white, you weren't likely to be hired. And you won't believe it, but networks pushed for more diversity. It was the early 70s. Civil rights had shifted the ground beneath everyone's feet. But Doris dug her heels in. She said the audience wanted what felt familiar. What she really meant was white. And because she pulled ratings, the networks didn't argue for long. Production memos surfaced later. Notes between executives, concerns from staff, quiet frustration from those watching roles disappear. None of it changed her decisions. She wasn't out there shouting slurs. She didn't need to. She just said no. Over and over again, and she got away with it. Even when people knew, because her name sold ads, her face drew viewers, and no one wanted to be the one who called out America's sweetheart. When she died in 2019, the tributes rolled in. Golden Girl, Animal Rights Champion, Eternal Optimist. No mention of the hiring practices that kept black talent locked out of her show. No talk of the doors she kept shut while smiling to the camera. Doris kept her image polished to the very end. But the decisions she made behind the scenes, well, they tell a different story. Number 1. Bob Hope. Well, you couldn't go 10 minutes without seeing Bob Hope's face during the golden age of American entertainment. He was everywhere. Roasts, specials, movies, and especially overseas. Where he'd joke through sandstorms and monsoons for whatever group of American soldiers had drawn the short straw that month. His image was glued to patriotism. That grin, the golf club, the punchlines that didn't stop. He was the guy who brought home to the front lines. But under all that service and spotlight was a man who didn't feel much pressure to evolve. He joked about how he wanted, talked about how he wanted, and backstage, people noticed. Staff from talk shows and USO tours remembered how he treated white crew members, warm, familiar, casual. But with the black crew, that changed. He wasn't cruel, just distant, quick, all business, no warmth. The small talk stopped. The jokes landed harder. Producers pushing for more diverse casts were met with resistance. So Hope's team would quietly suggest a return to the format that worked, which always happened to be all white. Other comedians, even the hard-headed ones, eventually shifted with the culture. They softened old material, rewrote bits, and stopped leaning on tired stereotypes. But Hope kept using them deep into the 80s, like he was immune to time itself. His team knew not to push him. The industry didn't dare. He was too tightly wrapped in the American flag. Any attempt to criticize him got spun into a slight against the military. And that shield worked, over and over again. Even when people came forward, even when the crew whispered about patterns they'd seen for decades, nothing ever landed. It wasn't just that he didn't evolve, it's that he didn't have to. He could freeze in time, stay exactly who he'd always been, and never face any real consequence. When he passed in 2003, the tributes came pouring in. Entertainer of the century, national treasure, tireless supporter of the troops. His legacy was clean, sparkling even. The behind-the-scenes memories, the patterns of exclusion, the stories told quietly by those who worked near him but never really with him. Those were left out. Merv never forgot them. And neither did the people who had to keep their heads down while the legend cracked another joke. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for hanging with us, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you very soon.